Okay, so today I am so excited to have our next guest because she is a PR pro, which if you've listened and you know anything about my little story, I also went to school for PR. So don't mind my fangirling today. REENA Goodwin is here with us. How are you?
I'm excellent, Krystine. How are you doing?
Good. So tell everybody who you are, what you do, and why they should know you.
Oh my goodness. Yes, I'd love to dive in. So nice to meet everyone. My name is Rena Goodwin, and I'm the founder and CEO of Factor PR. We're an award-winning communications studio for beauty and wellness brands. So in terms of what we do in and out at Factor, public relations, so that includes media relations, influencer relations, social media strategy, strategic partnerships, as well as events and activations for our businesses, including some pretty fantastic beauty pros that are based here in the US. So really our bread and butter is like building businesses through, unpaid media. So getting press coverage for our beauty pros in places like InStyle and Allure and places like that people in the industry, but also your customers, your consumers would recognize and help build that credibility to boost your brand and ultimately your bottom line. So, as the founder, I work with an awesome team. It's certainly not just me. As they say, it takes a village, and happy to talk more about how PR can help boost, your beauty brands businesses on here.
Absolutely. I definitely want to get on that because the beauty industry, as I'm sure you have discovered, like everybody wants to know how to build their social media. Like they want to have the prettiest feed or they want to have it where they're getting tons of followers and then they want more ideal clients and there's so many classes for them on like marketing and marketing on a budget. I know I teach a class about that. But as a PR pro, what is it that you do for them? I know you like listed all the things, but can you break it down for people who don't know what all those amazing things are?
Absolutely. Yes, it's definitely an ecosystem, right? Like
Yeah.
just as one product is not going to solve all your skincare woes and give you
Mm.
beautiful skin, one strategy is not going to be enough to transform your business, right, overnight. And so that being said, integrated marketing PR is really the most successful way to go if you think about kind of three buckets of like what helps sort, or actually I would say four buckets, what sort of help builds that foundation of building this business engine, right? Whether you're an expert or you're a brand, comes down to kind of four key things, and that includes brand. So, kind of this understanding branding, as the aesthetically pleasing part, right? Like who you are, who you serve, all of that. Next, if you want to think about it step by step, would come public relations or PR. So this is really creating that hum of conversation about your brand. This is all about building brand awareness, but reputation as well
Mm.
too. And then what I love to do for our clients and for our students, we also have like a DIY PR program, is to leverage that coverage in your marketing efforts, right? And then convert into sales. So it is kind of like a step by step. That doesn't mean like I've seen a lot of brands blow up if they've got like a huge advertising budget. They just sink
Mm.
it into social. You're going to get results from that, right? But are you going to get retention? Are you going to get reputation? That's
Mm.
where PR can really jump in and help with that as well too. So all of these things are related. I mean, for something like a PR campaign, we do 100% consider social media to be a public relations part of our public relations strategy.
Mm.
Because when it comes to PR, what we're really kind of getting down into, when I oftentimes ask potential clients, like, are you ready to kind of give more than ask for? In marketing,
Mm.
sales, we ask for a lot. We are ultimately, I want your email. I want you to listen to my podcast. I want you to buy my thing, sign up for my offer. It's a lot of asking. In PR, we're doing a lot of giving. And social media, especially those that tend to be most successful. It's not a post after post after post about, a deal or a special or buy this, buy that. You're getting something in return. You're getting value. You're getting, I learned something new. I was entertained, things along those lines. You can really relate to it. And that's what I
Mhm.
love about social, right? When I first started doing PR, I actually began as a journalist. And I mean, this was like back when there was, what was it called? Friendster? Was
Oh, I
like,
remember that.
remember Friendster? Like, oh God, like brands were
Yeah.
thinking about Friendster back then. So really becoming more complex, this crazy industry of public relations. But, I think with that complexity comes a lot of opportunity as well.
Mm. I I love everything you're saying. Okay, so the thing is that we are in this society where we want everything like right now. And for anybody listening, they're like, "Oh, that's what I need to do. I need to hire her so she can just do all of my media stuff. She could just do that and I don't have to worry about it," which that's totally true. But at least for me, and you tell me if I'm right or wrong, but people have a misconception that it's like, "Oh, it's cheap. I could just pay it. It's no big deal, and I'm gonna get, like, instant results."
Hmm.
What has your experience been with that?
Hey, I totally get it. I am a business owner too. I am human. It's psychology. It's like that dopamine effect, right? Like how many of us post something on social media and we're like, okay, who's clicking? Who's liking? Like,
Yeah.
where are my DMs? Like, of course, like that is totally, totally natural. PR, I mean, you really have to think of it in terms of an investment, right? Because there's
Mhm.
nothing more valuable in your business than your brand, right? Like campaigns come and go, specials come and go, but your brand, if you're thinking about, a legacy brand or a long-term brand that, stands the test of time, public relations can help set you apart and help create a really strong brand as well too. So I would never, sell anyone a bag of goods and be like, oh yeah, overnight success story. And even with
Uh-uh.
like big media, right? Like we've had clients like on Good Morning America and in the New York Times. And, what we see is like, a short-term lift. But what's
Mhm.
beautiful about PR is like, especially when it comes to media relations, is like you can take that credibility that I was featured in GMA or the New York Times or Allure or whatever and use it forever. So it is
Yes.
really like thinking about long-term outcomes. It's not just like a one and done thing. Like I hate to say it, like, when you place like a meta ad, which is great for the short term, but I mean, you're not going to put a logo on your site like featured on Instagram. Like, yeah, everyone is featured on Instagram. So what's so like beautiful about media relations, especially, is that, it is the gift that kind of keeps on giving. Like you can
Mhm.
get as much juice out of that squeeze as you really want, right? So it
Mhm.
really does come down to leverage, and that leverage is short term, of course, that short term lift, but long term too, right? Like in terms of, hey, I was featured in the New York Times. I've always been featured in the New York Times too.
I love that. I saw something when I was preparing for our chat today, which I feel like a lot of people are gonna be like, "Oh my god," is you worked with Beyoncé and Sony Records and Columbia Records. How is that experience for you? And how did you switch to creative?
It's a crazy story, right?
I'm ready.
Sometimes I even look back and I'm like, because like now Beyonce's bigger than when I worked for her, right? And I'm like, I
Right.
cannot believe I worked for this queen. But so yeah, my intention, kind of after school, I got really lucky. I was in school to be a journalist, and my goal was to move to New York City to be a writer. I wanted to write at like Rolling Stone or something like that.
So cool.
Yeah, and instead I ended up working in the music industry in my college town of Columbus, Ohio, and I started off as a college marketing rep and really enjoyed it. I did really well. It was PR without me realizing it was PR because I was walking into these like record shops and CD, selling places and music venues and, talking about some of these emerging artists. And then ultimately, after college, I got an interview opportunity at Columbia Records in New York City, and I drove overnight. I literally did not sleep, somehow got the job. And then about 2 weeks later, found myself working for my artist roster included Beyonce and Bruce Springsteen and some of these other like pretty incredible, musicians, right? And I had such a dream job. I mean, like, really at 23 years old, I mean, come on. It doesn't
Yeah.
get better than that,
Yeah,
right?
you're like, I think I made it.
I think I made it. Like, as long as I can just stay in it, move on up, like, this is it. I've made it. But then the Great Recession happens. And
Oh.
ultimately, if we, think back in time, this was around the time that like Napster was just killing it.
Mhm.
Record labels were really struggling to keep up.
Mhm.
So ultimately, after a couple years, I lost my job along with like most of the marketing department, and it was devastating. And I interviewed with like Shakira's team and like all of these. I was like so determined to stay in the music industry, but it just so happened that it took me to Cleveland, Ohio, where I worked at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And that's really when my public relations career started.
So
So,
funny.
long story short, like going from rock stars to, beauty rock stars and wellness rock stars. Honestly, I just think that like music will always, always
Yeah.
hold a very special place in my heart. But during this time period, I also became a mother and going out late to concerts. And I was like, yo, I cannot hang. Like, this is like way too
This
much.
is too much.
This is too much now. Like, at the time with like a newborn, I'm like, my amazing Friday night, I'm going to do a mask, maybe put
Yes.
bubbles in it. And I just really, really took a personal liking and investment in, things that filled my cup,
Mhm.
while also taking care of my child. So I started a PR agency, by golly, and here we are now 8 years
I love
later.
that. Oh my gosh. I love how throughout your story, everything is just kind of by accident. You know what I mean? And I know for me, a lot of things have always been like by accident, but it's something that I was always doing,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, this is what it is. Oh, okay.
Totally. I heard somebody call it in some ways because this was not like easy. It wasn't like, oh, I'm just going to wake up and follow my dreams. It was sometimes a lot of panic, like
Yeah.
especially getting laid off and all of that. And I heard someone the other day call it failing forward. And
Yes. I say that
oh,
all the time.
you say that all the time. Maybe you do.
Yes.
That actually heard you said that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that is totally what that happened. Like in the moment, you're like, oh my, the sky is falling. And then you look back and think that was actually the best thing that could have happened to me. I just didn't
It's
know it
so
at the time.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so really quickly, um, when you were working for these artists, this is like total side. This has nothing to do with the podcast today, but I have to ask. When you're working for these artists, what is it that you're exactly doing? You're getting them coffee? No. What are you doing?
Oh my goodness. It really would depend on the artist, but for the most part, I was in charge with my boss, of course, on their marketing strategy, budget, everything. So, for
Okay.
example, like with an artist like Beyonce, we would also be working closely with her publicity team on things like photo shoots, getting ready for her new record release, picking out the artwork for, you've seen like, if,
Yeah.
CDs and so forth, you
Yeah.
pull out the liner notes. All of that went through me before you see it on the shelves at Target or whatever.
Okay. Okay.
So literally everything that comes down to, touching the promotion of a new release or anything like that, that would go through me. But we had the way that Columbia was set up at the time, every sort of pod would have their roster of musicians. So she was on mine along with a few others, and that would also include like accompanying them to an interview at Billboard magazine and things like
Okay.
that, just being like that support person for them. But ultimately, our goal was to sell CDs, sell records.
Okay.
So anything that had to do with that, their tour, their concert posters, their merch, like literally everything. I say like, oh yeah, I would have totally just stayed there the rest of my life, but it is a hustle for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, um, it was the hardest job. Many difficulties at
Yeah.
that time because it was like you go from college and then you're like, oh my God, we work 9 to 9 in New York City. Like
Yeah.
that's life that you get into, but it was so fun. It was really, really cool.
That's cool. Okay. And then you were mentioning a lot before that it's all about giving,
Mm.
right? And so for the beauty and barber pros who are listening, that's what we do all day long, right? We give of ourselves emotionally, physically, creatively. So for you, what do you feel is the biggest flex as a servant leader?
Ooh, personally, or you mean as my
Uh,
client?
all of it. All of it.
Oh my gosh, the biggest flex. That's such a good question. I would say again, like it's not lost upon me like how much time, energy, right? Just because we
Mm.
have time doesn't mean we have energy to give, right? Um
Yeah, that's so true.
so that being said, I think what is like such a huge flex, if you will, is like just in terms of where you're kind of coming from, especially in as far as media relations goes as well too. I know that when, I put, let's say, a hairstylist client or a skincare client in front of a microphone or a phone to talk to a journalist, that they're helping people they'll never meet, that will never buy from them, right? Because when you think about national media relations,
Mhm.
um, you get a clip on InStyle's website. That's huge for your brand, but that's why we talk a lot about leverage, is because the sales lift from that, especially if you've got like a brick and mortar salon or a few
Mhm.
salons in certain communities, someone in California might be reading your story, but like, are they
Yeah,
going to go to your salon?
probably not.
TBD, probably not,
Probably
right?
not.
And so, I think it's like such an incredible method of being able to leverage your expertise and serve others with your knowledge and with your experience that you might not ever have the chance to meet. Now, what I love about what you do is you also offer like coaching to people. So that again, like a great way of being able to serve people that, with your experience that are not in your backyard per se,
Right.
but have an impact on. So, PR is a more passive way, I would say, of doing what you do. Like what you do is absolutely PR as well too, but you're actually creating that direct impact with, the people that sign up for your coaching brand as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Ah.
Um, I appreciate that because I personally like to get in there, you know. And there's a time and place for everything, but I feel like the passive and the active is
Mhm.
so necessary.
Yeah.
Like to working together. I mean, So, okay, so then what we talked about all these like amazing things that PR can do for you and then you as a person, Reena, what is something what has been your biggest like struggle or your biggest failure, whether it's personal or professional?
Oh, biggest struggle or failure. There have honestly been so many, right? And failures are so subjective, right? I honestly feel like in terms of failure, it feels like anytime I'm in a period where I am truly scaling my business, I don't know if it's the universe or God just making sure I'm ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
I am like tested in some way.
Yes.
It is never easy. And I think that as business owners and entrepreneurs, like we dream of this thing called freedom, right? It's really hard. And I'm not talking about just like sitting on a beach in Europe type freedom. I'm just saying, like, I have freedom in my schedule. I have freedom in the
Right.
clients that I get to work with, like things like that. And, as strange as it is to have less on your plate, it oftentimes takes so much more to get to
Mhm.
that place. So whether that's more stress, more growing pains, more financial burdens, whatever that looks like. And it can feel really, really challenging during that time period that it feels like I'm doing something wrong. Something has to be going wrong here. And again, like as entrepreneurs too, like there's the ceiling, like that's it. You're the top person, right? So I think
Yeah.
it's so important to surround yourself with cheerleaders and advocates and consultants and coaches and things like that that can just make sure that more than anything like your mindset is ready, right? Because it doesn't get easier the bigger your business grows. It au
Mhm.
contraire, right? Like it does get harder. It's just a different kind of hard. The hardest thing that I've ever gone through in my business was letting go of someone, a team
Oh.
that like shattered me, right? And I've had to do that a few times, and that never gets easy too. But it's hard not to take it personally, right? Like I messed up, but at the end of the day, it's you got to get the right people in the right seats that want to be there, and sometimes you got to kind of navigate through that and have a few flops along the way till you find the right person. And now I can say again, like looking back, I have a dream team. Like I have no
Yeah.
complaint. I wake up and I'm like, they get it done with a smile on their face.
Yeah.
Smart, they're savvy, we're good. But oh my God, was it a tough to get to this place, right?
Oh my goodness, so true. Like you learn. I think I said it a couple times in the podcast. Like having a business is your biggest it's your oh man, now I can't remember what I say. Oh my God. It's the biggest like personal development exercise. Like that is
Yes.
the ultimate self-care right there.
Oh my God, it's so true. And you don't realize it too. Cause like
Yeah.
I grew up as like a serial people pleaser. And I think that especially in a service-based business, we always
Mhm.
are, it's this tension of finding a balance between like serving and hospitality and doing a
Yeah.
great job. But then we're running a business here,
Right.
like we
Yeah.
have to have boundaries. We have to enforce things for the sake of like the common collective, right?
Mhm.
And so that has been a big kind of self-care, self-development thing that I have gotten only better at. I'm not perfect, but gotten
Right.
better at over the years is like, as they often say, like learning when to say no or take a pass on something that as much as you want to do it, right? As they say, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. And
Yeah.
thing to walk away, it's hard.
Ooh. Okay, like as a this is like coming to me now. So like when it's time for you to get your ideal like team members and your ideal clients, what does a public relations strategist, how do you do that in comparison to like a hairstylist or an esthetician?
It's such a great question, Krystine, too, because we actually have an HR like a fractional HR agency that we started working with because that
Okay.
was sort of one of my learnings in scaling my own business is like I'm a PR professional, not necessarily like a recruiting professional, but PR plays a huge role, right? And I think a lot of it comes down to culture, which is
Mhm.
also, arguably has to do with public relations, right? And so really defining what our culture looks like. And I think that this is applicable, honestly, to
Mhm.
any business. I saw something on LinkedIn the other day that it said your company culture is not the words on your website, it's how your team feels on a Sunday night. And I thought that that was
Oh.
like so powerful, right? In terms of, also attracting potential team, potential clients, and so forth as well. Making sure that branding, messaging, all of that is on point. But then on the flip side, just as we're talking about building a brand reputation, you don't want to ruin it by not meeting expectations. So
Mhm.
that being said, I think the best kind of PR that you can do, whether you're finding new team or finding new clients, is just doing great work. People will sing
Mhm.
your praises. A lot of times when we post a new job, it's, people that are applying that know someone that works with us already, right? So, that's two thumbs up, right? And most of the time when clients or potential clients come to us, it's most of our clients are referral, just like, same thing in the beauty industry. It's just good PR, right? People
Mhm.
saying, I had an amazing experience, I got great results. They're friendly, like, in the qualitative and the quantitative stuff, and then people come your way. So I would say those two things are probably the most influential in terms
Yeah.
of attracting really anyone to any business, but be it, new team or new customers and clients.
Yeah. What are some of the trends that you're seeing as far as social media is concerned, um, and marketing too? What are some of the trends that you think are gonna totally change the way we present ourselves in, like, the next 3 to 5 years?
I don't know that I can go as far as 3 to 5 years because
It changes every day.
it's changed so much. Like, um, but that being said, something that we have not only taken note of, in terms of the industry, but also like what our clients are looking for and what moves the needle for them is a shift in how we approach influencers. And this is what I mean
Oh,
by this. It's super applicable to anyone listening right now too. So at Factor PR, we work with beauty brands. So think about like products,
okay.
hair care brands, skincare products, etc. But then we also work with experts like dermatologists, hairstylists, etc. Now, when it comes to influencers for these beauty brands,
Mm.
typically they would go after people who had a large platform. Like I won't say names, but there are a ton. We know those influencers on.
Yes, we know them, we know
Yes.
them.
They do their unboxings, they're wearing this, they're wearing that, they saw this hairstylist, they tag them, etc. But they're not licensed in beauty. So in terms of giving
Right.
advice, a lot of this advice is helpful, but a lot of it is damaging, right? I've
Mm,
seen so many estheticians and so forth, cosmetologists that are, speaking up more about like kind of
yeah.
debunking these myths, which is great because just as much as like social media kind of levels the playing field when you think about, lifting up voices of a population, that's a really incredible, beautiful thing, but there is a danger in that, of course, as we know as well. And so thinking about this demand of where are those credible voices, right? They're the people who are licensed experts, right? People like the ones that are listening on on the show, and more beauty brands want to work with them. They're not
Mm,
abandoning the skinfluencers and so forth, but they want to work with makeup artists and hairstylists and people that do this in and out. Why? Because you already have legitimacy. And
right.
so, what we're finding in terms of a big trend, Allure just did a story on this. I think we're going to see a lot more about this, is the rise of the beauty expert as the new influencer. So,
Cool.
such a huge opportunity. So many are seizing right now, of course, as well, too. Leveraging your voice in the media, on social media, working with brands to bring back that all important, almost lost air of credibility, right? So it's not to poo-poo what the common consumer is saying. It's just to be, part of that orchestra, right? Any of us who are interested in researching, whether it's a salon or a salon care line, most of us go online and see what we can find right before making their decision. So we're really trying to lift up those voices of the experts and help, kind of draw a bridge closer to the brand. So my clients that are on the brand side, we're oftentimes pitching people like you. Like we're like, hey, going online, I'm looking for an esthetician, a salon owner, a hairstylist, whatever. My hair care brand wants to work with you on speaking opportunities. They want to work with you on content creation. Or maybe I just want your feedback. You do this,
Right.
you're behind the chair all day long. Can you try this with your clients and see, how does it work? What improvements we need to make? And
Mm.
they're paying you for this time as well too. So earlier this year, we actually created a platform at Factor. It's sort of like our sister brand called Realfluence, where we're connecting brands with beauty experts. So you can go and like find a bunch of like different like influencer software systems and things like that, and type in, I want to work with a woman ages 25 through 35 in this demographic that
That's so
talks,
cool.
but they're not experts.
Oh,
So
yeah, yeah. Yeah, okay.
this is just experts. So
Right.
that recently launched, and right now our goal is to get more experts on the platform and give you guys a platform to work with these major beauty brands across the world too. So I think that's going to only be a bigger trend
Mhm.
throughout at least the next year, but I see it honestly going for longer than that. Like you being an expert, you're always going to be an expert. Why not continue to
Right.
leverage?
Right. So what is it that these actually licensed cosmetologists, makeup artists, estheticians, what is it that I guess you or people are looking for in these people besides their like license and expertise? What is it about them that really gets them to stand out?
So I think a lot of it too, and this is sort of all across PR. We often say clear is kind. So just being very clear with your audience on where you stand or what the risks are, what the possibilities are, etc. Too. I think
Mm,
this is just good for communication in general. But when we are clear, your audience is not confused,
mm,
that sort of thing. So part of that clarity is perspective. You can't
mm.
necessarily, or well, let me back up. You can have an opinion on anything, but that doesn't necessarily mean that like you're the go-to for, that particular opinion. So, kind of again, getting clear, but then also getting consistent in terms of like, when I go to someone's social media channel, I like to know pretty quickly, like, what is your perspective? Because your perspective is going to tell me what is it I'm going to expect to get from you, whether it be education, entertainment, some kind of value in that way. So I think being known as the blah, 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 like my,
Mhm.
perspective stance on this is always going to be very helpful just so that you're not in another big sea of other beauty experts that are kind of saying the same thing that you are as well. So I think having that perspective, and then picking, a topic or two that you are obviously very well versed on, can be super, super helpful. And if you're stumped too, and you're like, okay, well, yeah, I am an expert on hair color. How many things can I possibly say about hair color? This is when I love to use something even like Chat GPT just to get like a
Mm.
feel for like what are people searching for? What are their questions? And just kind of answer them until you can get your audience kind of coming back and telling you what they're looking for as well too. And then if you do want to work with a brand or whatever that might look like for you, or thinking about public relations, it'll make that kind of sell a lot easier because you've already sort of built that narrative and an audience around it too.
Mm. Oh my goodness, this is such good information. Like I'm gonna after this episode, like I'm gonna go back and like re-listen and like take notes.
So
I just love it.
flattering.
So what's an insult that you have gotten that you are currently so proud of getting that insult?
Okay, an insult that I've gotten that I am so proud. My goodness. I think that an insult that I've gotten recently that I'm so proud of, We actually had this amazing event recently in New York City, and we invited about 12 that we had about 12 different beauty and wellness brands that were at this event.
Is this
And
the thing on Instagram right now? I did see those.
you
Oh
see
my gosh,
that?
that looks so fun. Okay,
Oh,
yes, I know
it
what you're talking
was
about.
awesome. It was so great. We're going to do it in Los Angeles in March. And it was wonderful. And for us, it was giving these brands a platform to mingle with the media and with influencers. And, nobody else was in the room. It was invite only. We had like 70 journalists and influencers, which is kind of crazy for, I work with these people all the time. They are they're very big. Let's
They're
put it
very fickle. I'll
they're
say it
very
for you.
fickle. Yes, thank you. You know it. Because, that's their industry. But anyway,
Yeah.
we were at this event and there were brands that were not our clients. Like this was open to anybody that wanted to participate, because we give more than we take, right? And I'm giving this platform to them. And there was just like this one publicist that was very, very rude to me and my team. I think she was threatened, honestly.
Mm.
And she had made some remarks, I won't repeat them, but she made some remarks that were kind of like those backdoor, like kind of just
Yeah.
like poke you and, see how much I can hurt you. And, I chatted with my team, like water down your back, don't even think twice about it. But, it was, I don't know, in some ways, like while that was insulting, I think one of the reasons why it wasn't so harmful was that we must be doing something really big and out there for these brands. I don't want her to feel insulted or threatened. That's not the point. Like I know she works for them. I'm not here to take your clients, people, but like,
Right, right,
must have been something special enough that it set something off inside of her. And
right.
I got an email just this week from another publicist that was at the event, and she was like, this event was so expansive for me because I've never been to something like this where like other publicists are not threatened, and you made me feel so welcome. And I was like, the sisterhood.
Oh
Yes.
my God, how exciting.
Yeah. So I don't know, that was just one kind of thing that made me feel
Yes.
warm and fuzzy. Not at first, but eventually.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I love that, especially because like that's the thing right now, right? Like you said, the sisterhood, like let's just support each other. Like we're all trying to make money, we're all trying to pay our bills. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm trying to get my red bottom shoes. Like we're all
Yeah.
got goals here, okay? And it's like it's like we don't need to fight. It's gonna be okay.
Totally. It's all good. There's enough to go around. And I think that's the difference between, as they call it, like a scarcity mindset and an
Yes.
abundance mindset. If you do find yourself, you know, shape shifting and taking on more of that abundance mindset, the insults, like you're like, that's you. That's a you problem. That's not a me problem.
That's a you thing. Sorry. Can't help
You
you.
have to
So
live this.
what is okay, so you went to school for journalism. You have a PR company now, a PR firm rather. What is a lesson that you have learned working with beauty and barber pros and skin professionals that you wish that everybody would learn? Like doctors, lawyers, like you want these people to learn what you just learned from a hairdresser.
Yes, I would say so important to remember to be humble. And
Hmm.
it's such a prestigious thing, right? To be a master in your trade, even more prestigious to get unpaid attention for it. People that are asking to sit down and interview you. Like me just talking to you right now, I am so flattered. Like I'm like, oh my God.
Oh, I love it. I love that so much.
Good. And it's just this like staying humble, like remembering that like we are in a service industry. Like, yes, we have to look out for number one, ourselves,
Right.
100%. But when you can marry service with with that as well too. Like that's when people, we say I love my job. It doesn't feel like working. And I think in order to even feel that way, which is why we got into this crazy business in the first place, right? We have to just remember to be humble about it. So I've worked with folks sometimes where I had a dermatologist and we got featured in Newsweek, which was amazing, right? She was commenting on this like viral trend. And within like 24 hours, the story was published, like Newsweek. Like this is she doesn't have a platform. I think she has like 200 Instagram followers or something like that. And
Yeah.
we're so excited for her. Like, this is great. We're talking about next steps. We're going to do this coverage. And, what instead it was like, they didn't link to my website. And it was, and like, no, thank you. No, which is fine. Like,
Right, 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 right.
your
But
thank you is paying our invoice, right? But like,
right, right.
it's,
Exactly. But
in
still.
terms of, yeah, it's just like, what a, what an honor to be asked for your personal insights on this. Like let's not be jaded, right? Like people
Mhm.
would obviously, kill to be included in a story in Newsweek that they did not pay for and things
Right.
like that. But it's all relative. That's why I think so much of it is just, we heard this person out. We tried to get it was just like an editorial guideline. They didn't do it for anyone. So it
Right.
was like nothing against you. It wasn't an error. It was just like, hey, this is our guidelines. We didn't know it, but we
Mhm.
do now. So you kind of live and learn. And I think that again, just kind of staying humble around that and just remembering like how, we don't have to do this. We get to do this is
Mhm.
always a good thing to remember.
Yeah. Yes. I am really happy that that was your answer. Like, that's awesome. Like not a lot of people say that, and I'm really happy that you did. So thank you. Thank you
Of
for
course.
sharing that. Because I at least for me, like that's what I say. Like that's what we say in my salon, and like that's what we teach. Like be humble.
Of
Um, and not a lot of people, I guess, grasp that. So I appreciate that.
course.
Yeah. So how can people, if they are like digging this episode and they're like, yes, take my money, Rena, how can they get in contact with you? What do they need to have to meet with you so that you can totally like explode their brand? Tell us.
Oh, I would be honored to. So there's three ways that we work with beauty experts at Factor PR. We have what we call it's kind of like the done for you type package. So just working one-on-one with us. So if you're someone that has more money than time, which I totally get, you're probably going to want to work with a PR or brand building partner they know what they're doing, they can kind of take it and run, right? And then sort of in the middle ground, if you're like somebody who has more time than money and is really interested in PR and you're receptive to sort of learning how to do it, I promise it's doable. People think like
Yeah,
it's witchcraft. It's not
it's
witchcraft. It's
not.
relationships. That's what it is, right? We have a DIY PR course that is really great, and then of course too, our Real Fluence platform, which that one is totally free to join. You guys can sort of learn about all three of these things. We post about them on Instagram at Factor PR. That's F as in Frank, ACTEUPR.com. I'm sorry, just PR at Factor PR or go to factorpr.com.
We're
And
gonna have the links in the show notes too, so you can
those darn pretty French business.
words.
Yes. But yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
Oh, okay. Now one more question.
Yes.
What is something that you wish I would have asked you that I did not, and how would you have answered?
Oh my gosh, you are good. This is such
Thank
a great.
you.
Um, I think one of the things that is just kind of good to know or a question, right, is like how can I leverage something like media in my
Mm,
business? Because when I work with other business owners and entrepreneurs and beauty pros, everyone knows like, oh yeah, wouldn't it be great to get featured in all of these things? But especially in the age of influencer and social, I think some folks still kind of think it might be like, ah, we don't need that, you know? And so what I like to help kind of teach our clients and our students in the DIY PR project is like remembering that again, when it comes to something like media, you're not paying for that coverage, right? And so it's really important that we look at how do we leverage it to help benefit your business. And some of the ways that we do that is like creating content on your social channels. So putting it up on social, putting it up, we see it on like a lot of BeautyPro's bios, like featured in XYZ.
Mm. Mhm.
On your website, if you have you know, you see clients in a chair or at an office, we I love to see those accolades like on a digital screen, for example, so
Mhm.
that you're not only wowing potential clients, but your current clients that are with you right now as well too. There's just so many different benefits that all work together. You just have to believe that you're worthy of it. I think that's a lot of it comes down to self-confidence and being like, I could never do that. Yes, you can. You absolutely can do that. And I know as someone who's been working in this industry for a long time, the demand for your stories in the media is higher than it's ever been. All you have to do is knock, right? So that's what I would tell your listeners.
I love that. Yes. All the everything you just said. You got to know yourself. You have to believe in yourself. You have to go for it. Just knock and the door will be open to you.
Yes, amen.
Yes, girl. I got you. All right. So, if you guys love today's episode, if you totally resonated with Reena, make sure you tap the links in the show notes. We're going to have all the things so you can get in contact with her. Can they message you on Instagram?
Yeah, our as they say, our DMs are open. So
Slide
uh,
into her DMs, you
yes.
guys. Okay.
Any
So, thank you for coming. Thank you for listening or watching if you saw it on YouTube. And I will chat with you guys next time.